Carter Langford had everything money could buy. His name printed on skyscrapers, his company ranked among the world's most powerful tech empires, and a fiancée the media called the most beautiful woman in Manhattan. But behind the tailored suits and million-dollar smiles, Carter carried a habit his father had taught him long ago: trust but verify. He was a man who believed in data, in proof, in what could be seen and measured. That belief had built his empire. What he didn't know was that it was about to shatter it. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Carter's office occupied the top floor of Langford Tower, a fortress of glass and chrome overlooking the city. His assistant had just set down his coffee when the intercom buzzed. "Sir, there's a young woman here," the receptionist said. "She says it's urgent." Carter barely looked up from his laptop. "Name?" "She didn't give one." "Then tell her I'm in a meeting." There was a pause, then the receptionist's uneasy voice. "She says it's about your fiancée." That made him stop typing. He sighed, closing the laptop with a soft click. "Send her up." A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened and a girl stepped out. Young, maybe 17, dark-skinned, wearing jeans and a windbreaker a size too big. Her hair was pulled back tightly and her eyes were sharp, alert, like someone who'd learned to notice things the world ignored. Carter leaned back in his chair. "You said this was urgent?" The girl nodded but didn't move closer. "My name's Maya," she said quietly. "You don't know me, but you need to hear this. There's a camera in your office," he blinked. "A camera?" "In that corner," she whispered, glancing toward a decorative sculpture beside the bookshelf. "It's disguised as a light sensor. It's not yours. Someone planted it there." Carter almost laughed. "You came all the way here to tell me that?" "You know this is a secured building. Every inch is monitored." "Not that one," Maya said, her voice trembling slightly but her eyes steady. "That one's different. I saw the man who installed it. He's working for your fiancée." Silence. The hum of the air conditioner filled the space between them. He folded his arms. "Vanessa?" Maya nodded once. For a moment he said nothing, only studying her. He was used to lies, to blackmail attempts, but there was something unsettlingly honest about the way she stood, small, nervous, but refusing to look away. "Why would I believe you?" he asked. "Because I can prove it." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny flash drive. "Everything's on this." Carter hesitated, then called security through the intercom. "Run a sweep of this office, every corner, every fixture." Minutes later, his head of security, a thick-set man named Reeves, arrived with a scanning device. The beeps filled the room as he moved from wall to wall. Then near the sculpture, the scanner chirped sharply. Reeves frowned, pried open the metal frame, and froze. "Sir," he said, holding up a pin-sized camera no bigger than a button. For the first time in years, Carter Langford's composure cracked. He turned to Maya. "How did you know?" "I clean the offices at night," she said softly. "Part-time. I saw a man here last week after hours. Said he was maintenance, but I didn't recognize him. He installed that thing, said it was for temperature control. Then I saw him again, talking to your fiancée." Carter's pulse quickened. "You're sure?" "I don't forget faces." He took the flash drive and slid it into his computer. The screen lit up with footage, grainy black and white video from that same office. There was Carter working at his desk. There was Vanessa, entering with her usual grace, pouring him a drink, smiling as she leaned close. And there, subtle, quick, she tilted the bottle at an odd angle, pouring something unseen into his glass. Carter stared, frozen. "She was poisoning you," Maya said quietly. He felt his stomach turn. "That's impossible." Maya pointed at the timestamp. "It's from last Friday. That's why you fainted, isn't it?" He remembered. The headache, the sudden dizziness during the charity gala. The doctor had said exhaustion. Vanessa had insisted he rest, even canceled his meetings herself. Carter's throat went dry. "Why would she—" He stopped. "Because of the merger. Because his assets were about to shift to joint ownership. She wanted control," Maya said, as if reading his thoughts. "I heard her say it. He won't see it coming." He rose from his chair, pacing to the window. The city glimmered below, his kingdom, his illusion. He turned back to Maya. "Why are you helping me?" She hesitated. "Because someone helped me once. I couldn't let what happened to me happen again." He studied her. "What happened to you?" Her eyes lowered. I used to clean Vanessa's old apartment building. She had cameras there too. She liked watching people, recording them. One day she caught something she shouldn't have, and she blamed me. Got me fired. My mom lost her job too. Carter felt a sharp stab of guilt. He'd defended Vanessa in tabloids when rumors painted her as manipulative. He'd called her misunderstood. How blind he'd been. He turned back to Reeves. Locked down the building. No one in or out without my permission. Reeves nodded. Including Miss Vanessa? Especially her. Within the hour, Vanessa called, her voice sugar and silk. Darling, is everything all right? I heard there's some kind of security alert. Carter's tone was calm, almost too calm. Everything's fine. I just found something interesting in my office. Thought you might want to come by? There was a pause. Of course, she said sweetly. On my way. When she arrived, the tension in the room was thick enough to taste. She swept in wearing white diamonds glittering at her ears, lips curved in that same disarming smile the cameras loved. What's going on, sweetheart? Carter gestured to the desk. I want you to see something. He played the footage. For a long moment, Vanessa didn't move. Then with a laugh too loud to be real, she said, That's ridiculous. This could be anyone, some cheap trick to ruin us. Us? Carter said coldly. You mean me? She turned to him, eyes wide, voice softening. Baby, you can't believe this girl over me. But Carter's gaze had hardened into steel. I used to believe in you more than anyone. Until today, the color drained from her face. You're making a mistake. No, he said. You did. Reeves stepped forward. Ma'am, I'll have to ask you to come with me. Vanessa's eyes flicked toward Maya, hatred sharp and sudden. You little rat. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Maya didn't flinch. I know exactly who you are. As security let her out, Vanessa's voice echoed down the corridor. You think this changes anything, Carter? You'll regret this. The doors slammed shut behind her. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Carter turned to Maya. You saved my life, she shrugged. Someone had to. He looked at her more carefully now, not as a stranger, but as someone who'd just torn the mask off a world he thought he understood. You work here from tonight? She nodded. Cleaning crew. I start after 9. Not anymore, he said. From now on, you work for me directly. Her eyes widened. Doing what? Finding out who else is watching. That night, as city lights flickered below, Carter sat alone in his office. The same space that had once felt like a symbol of control now felt like a cage. He replayed the footage over and over, memorizing every frame. Then he noticed something, barely visible at the edge of the screen. When Vanessa leaned over him, a reflection glinted from a second camera hidden behind the painting across the room. He froze. There's more than one. The next morning, Reeves confirmed it. 3 other devices, 2 in the office, 1 in his private penthouse. Each connected to an encrypted network routed through multiple servers overseas. Vanessa hadn't been acting alone. Carter felt the old instincts kick in, the strategic calm that had built his empire. Trace it, he ordered. Every signal, every source. I want to know who's behind this by tonight. When Maya came by later, he showed her the recovered feed. You were right, he said quietly. But it's bigger than her. Maya looked at the screen. Endless lines of code, addresses, files. So what now? Carter's jaw tightened. Now we find out who's watching the watchers. Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline. For the first time in years, Carter Langford wasn't thinking about profits or power. He was thinking about survival, and the strange young girl who had become the only person he could trust. The next 48 hours felt like living inside someone else's nightmare. Carter Langford, once the man who controlled information across continents, now found himself hunted by it. Every corner of his empire, every device in his home, every whisper in the boardroom could no longer be trusted. The cameras were gone, but the feeling of being watched lingered like static in his chest. Reeves and his security team worked nonstop. The network they'd uncovered wasn't just surveillance. It was an entire data web stretching through offshore servers, dummy corporations, and encrypted cloud vaults. Whoever had planted those cameras had access to Carter's life in real time. His calls, his meetings, even his biometric locks. And the deeper they dug, the clearer it became. Vanessa wasn't working alone. Maya, sitting cross-legged on the carpet of his office, studied the screen with the focus of someone twice her age. This IP loop, she said, pointing to the tracing map, is bouncing through a server in Zurich before hitting one in Dubai. That's not random. It's military-grade routing. Reeves raised an eyebrow. How does a janitor know that? Maya shrugged. I hang around computer labs when I clean the university buildings. People leave stuff open. Carter gave a faint smile. You have a good eye. I notice things, she said. People think cleaning means invisible. It's the opposite. By midnight, they found a name, Echelon Systems, a private intelligence firm Carter's company had once contracted for cybersecurity years ago. Vanessa had been an intern there before she met him. The dots connected like scars. Reeves leaned back, rubbing his temples. She didn't just want money. She wanted access to you, to your company. Echelon's been bleeding you for months. Carter stared at the screen, a mixture of anger and disbelief tightening his voice. They used her to get to me. Every meeting, every project recorded. God knows what they've already stolen, Maya asked quietly. Why steal from you? Because information is power, Carter said. And I've been selling it without knowing. He stood by the window, watching the storm rolling over the skyline. We end this now. The next morning, Carter made a show of returning to normal life. The tabloids buzzed about his temporary separation from Vanessa, but he ignored them. At work, he smiled for the cameras, shook hands with board members, and pretended nothing was wrong. Behind the scenes, his real operation unfolded. Reeves and Maya set up a covert hub in the old server room, a place few employees ever entered. There, they intercepted outgoing data streams and traced them back to hidden nodes. It was Maya who spotted the anomaly first. Look, she said, zooming in. One of the transmissions isn't external. It's coming from inside this building. Reeves frowned. Someone else planted another feed? Not someone, Maya said softly. Something. She opened the logs and Carter's heart sank. The feed originated from a company tablet, his own. The same device he used to approve executive decisions, financial transfers, and private messages. He slammed a fist on the table. They cloned my access, Reeves cursed under his breath. That means they can move money, change contracts, even fire employees using your signature. How much damage? Too early to tell. But whoever's behind this knows your habits better than we do. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. Wait, there's an embedded tracker pinging from your penthouse. Carter's voice went cold. Then we're going home. Night blanketed the city when they reached the tower. The penthouse lights were off, the silence too perfect. Reeves moved first, sweeping each room with his weapon drawn. Carter followed, heart pounding, while Maya stayed close behind, holding a small EMP jammer she'd insisted on bringing. In the living room, everything looked untouched. Glass walls, marble floors, Vanessa's perfume still lingering faintly in the air. But when Carter entered his study, the smell of ozone hit him. Someone's been here, Reeves said. Maya pointed at the desk. Look, the lamp was slightly turned, a centimeter off from where he always placed it. Carter lifted it, revealing a thin wire that disappeared into the desk itself. He followed it to a hidden slot behind the wood paneling, a transmitter no larger than a pen. Reeves pulled it free. Another camera? No, Maya said. A microphone. Live feed. Carter's stomach twisted. They've been listening the whole time. Before they could move, a voice crackled through the penthouse intercom. Smooth, familiar. Hello, Carter. He froze. Vanessa, her laugh filled the room. You really thought you could outsmart me? Carter's jaw clenched. Where are you? Close enough to hear you breathe. Reeves swept the area again, muttering, She's patched in remotely. Vanessa's voice turned mocking. You should thank me. Without me, you'd still be blind. Now the world will finally see who you really are. Carter stared at the nearest speaker. What do you want? What I've always wanted, she said sweetly. Everything. Then the line went dead. Seconds later, Reeves's phone buzzed. An alert from the company network. His eyes widened. Sir, she just triggered a full data release. She's leaking your private archives, financial records, confidential deals, board emails to the press. Carter's mind raced. Shut it down! Trying. Reeves barked, typing furiously. But she's got admin access. She's using your own credentials. Maya stepped forward. I can reroute the servers. If I isolate the node she's using, I can reverse trace it. Do it, Carter ordered. Minutes ticked by like hours as code scrolled across the monitors. The hum of machines filled the room. Maya's hands didn't stop moving. Sweat beaded her forehead, but her voice stayed steady. Almost there. She's bouncing through proxies, but she slipped. I've got a direct line, Miami. She's using a yacht-based satellite uplink. Carter's eyes darkened. Of course she is, Reeves nodded. We can intercept the signal if we get close enough. Carter turned to Maya. Can you keep her locked until we move? Maya nodded. For a while, but she'll notice. Then we move fast. By dawn, they were airborne, Carter's private jet slicing through clouds toward Florida. Reeves prepped tactical gear while Maya hunched over her laptop, tracing the satellite feed in real time. She's near Key Largo, she said. Transmission's active. She's probably watching us right now. Carter's expression was unreadable. Let her watch. 2 hours later, the yacht came into view, a white leviathan glinting on turquoise water. They approached quietly in a smaller craft, engines low. Through binoculars, Carter saw her, Vanessa, standing on deck in a silk robe, champagne glass in hand, smiling at the horizon like a queen surveying her kingdom. She doesn't even know we're here, Maya whispered. Oh, she knows, Carter said. She's always known. They boarded from the rear, silent as shadows. Reeves took down 2 guards before they could draw weapons. Carter moved through the corridor until he reached the control room. Vanessa turned as he entered, unshaken. Finally, she said, I was getting bored. He stared at her. Why, Vanessa? You had everything. She laughed. I had what you allowed me to have. But I wanted what you hid, the control. The decisions. The power to decide who wins and who loses. Carter's voice dropped to ice. So you spied on me? I perfected you, she said. Do you know how much they pay for a man like you? For your secrets? You're not a person, Carter, you're a product. Maya appeared behind him holding a small device. I can shut down her transmission now. Vanessa's eyes flicked to the girl. Ah, the little janitor. You again? Maya didn't blink. This ends tonight, does it? Vanessa smiled and tapped her tablet. Instantly, the screens around them filled with images. Carter's private meetings, conversations, contracts. You think I'd keep just one copy? I have backups everywhere. You destroy this yacht and it changes nothing. Carter stepped closer. You're right. Destroying it changes nothing. He pressed a button on his earpiece. Uploading now. Reeves's voice came through. Copy that. Transmission live. Vanessa frowned. What did you do? Carter smiled grimly. You wanted the world to see who I am? Then let them see who you are too. Across every screen, the feed switched, from his files to hers. Video of her meeting echelon agents discussing payments, bragging about manipulation, confessing to poisoning him, just enough to weaken him. Her face went pale. I copied your drives before coming here, he said. The same surveillance you used against me, I used against you. Maya hit the final key, and now everyone knows. Vanessa's voice broke into a scream. You can't. Reeves appeared in the doorway. Police are 5 minutes out. She lunged for the console, but Carter caught her wrist. For a moment, their eyes locked. Love twisted into something unrecognizable. You could have had everything, he said quietly. I almost did, she hissed. He let her go. Almost isn't enough anymore. Outside, sirens wailed across the water. Hours later, back in New York, the news flooded every channel. Billionaire exposes fiancé's corporate espionage ring. Echelon Systems was raided. Arrests were made. Vanessa faced charges that could end her career and her freedom. Carter watched the coverage from his office, the same room where it had all begun. The sculpture that once hid the first camera now sat in a box on his desk, silent and harmless. Maya entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. You didn't sleep again, she said. He smiled faintly. Neither did you. She sat beside him, sipping her drink. It's over, isn't it? Carter looked out over the skyline. For her, yes. For us, not yet. What do you mean? He turned to her. Someone funded Echelon. Someone bigger. Vanessa was just the face. Maya's expression hardened. Then we find them. He nodded slowly. And when we do, we finish it. Outside, the city lights flickered like 1,000 unblinking eyes. For a man once addicted to control, Carter Langford had finally learned that truth had its own way of watching back. A month passed. The world had moved on, or at least pretended to. News anchors had replaced Carter Langford's scandal with fresher chaos. Investors returned cautiously. The board tried to paint the incident as a cyber breach with unfortunate personal overlap, but Carter knew better. Echelon Systems hadn't collapsed, it had gone silent. And silence, in his experience, was never peace. He stood in front of his office window one night, the skyline reflecting in the glass like a field of stars. Behind him, the faint hum of servers filled the air. Maya sat nearby, reviewing new access logs. She had grown since that first day, still quiet, still sharp, but more confident, more certain of her worth. "You ever think about what happens after all this?" she asked without looking up. Carter smiled faintly. "Every day, and I haven't decided if I rebuild or disappear." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You don't strike me as the disappearing type," he chuckled. Neither did Vanessa. They both laughed, though the sound carried an edge of sadness. Just then Reeves entered, carrying a tablet. "We've got movement," he said. "Someone accessed the offshore archive Echelon used." "It's not the police or government," Carter frowned. "Who then?" Reeves handed him the device. A string of code filled the screen, followed by a name. R. Calloway. Carter's blood went cold. Richard Calloway, his mentor, the man who had taught him everything about corporate warfare. The same man who had introduced him to Vanessa years ago. "Pull everything we have on him," Carter ordered. Reeves nodded and left. Maya watched Carter carefully. "You think he's the one?" Carter exhaled slowly. "He was the only person who knew how to hurt me without firing a bullet." That night, Carter couldn't sleep. He walked the empty halls of Langford Tower, remembering the day he signed the contract that had given Calloway partial control of his early patents. Back then, he'd been naive, hungry to prove himself, blind to the cost of trust. The next morning, proof arrived. Reeves burst into the office holding printed documents. "He's the money trail. Every offshore payment Vanessa made ties back to a shell company owned by Calloway Industries." Carter stared at the pages, his jaw tightening. "He built the trap and used her to bait it," Reeves said. Maya folded her arms. "So what do we do now?" Carter looked up, eyes cold. "We don't fight in the dark anymore. We bring him into the light." That evening, Carter called a press conference. The entire building buzzed with curiosity. Reporters packed the atrium, lights flashing, questions echoing. Carter took the stage, composed as ever, flanked by Reeves and Maya. "Today," he began, "we close a chapter of deception that nearly destroyed this company. But to rebuild trust, we must confront the truth, no matter how powerful those behind it are." He clicked a remote. The screen behind him lit up with images, corporate filings, encrypted ledgers, video evidence. These documents confirm that the espionage against Langford Industries was financed and directed by Richard Calloway, former board chair and advisor. Gasps rippled through the room. Carter continued. "Mr. Calloway built Echelon Systems under false fronts, using employees like Vanessa Morales to infiltrate clients and siphon proprietary data. When I began suspecting her, he silenced her by cutting her loose, hoping her arrest would end the trail." He paused. "But thanks to one brave young woman, it didn't." Maya shifted awkwardly as the crowd turned their cameras toward her. Carter smiled gently. "Maya risked everything to tell me the truth. Without her, none of this would have come to light." Applause erupted. Reporters shouted questions, but Carter raised a hand. "We will let the justice system finish this story. For now, know this. Langford Industries stands not just for innovation, but for integrity." The cameras flashed one last time as he left the podium. That night, while the world processed the revelation, Carter sat alone in his office once again. The city below glittered like a reflection of everything he'd built, and everything he'd nearly lost. Maya entered quietly. "You did it," she said. He turned. "We did it. But he's still out there, isn't he?" she asked. "Yes," Carter admitted. "And men like Calloway never run without a plan." As if on cue, a notification pinged on his phone. "An anonymous message, and you think exposure ends this? You still live inside my machine. I built the system, Carter. You just feed it." Maya read it over his shoulder. "He's taunting you." He deleted the message and set the phone down. "No," he said quietly. "He's challenging me." For a moment, the only sound was the rain against the glass. Then Maya spoke again. "So what's next?" Carter looked at her. "How old are you, Maya?" 17, he nodded. "When I was 17, I thought power was money. Then I thought it was control. Now I know it's neither. What is it then?" "Choice," he said. "The choice to stand up when it's easier to walk away," she smiled faintly. "Then you're making the right one." He smiled back. So are you. A week later, federal agents raided Calloway's estates across 3 countries. The evidence Carter provided, paired with Maya's decrypted logs, was undeniable. But by the time they arrived, Calloway was gone. His accounts were frozen, but his mind, his influence, remained untraceable. Carter watched the coverage quietly. He'll resurface, he said. Reeves nodded grimly. Men like him always do. Elena, Carter's head of PR, entered with a sealed envelope. This came for you. No sender. Carter opened it. Inside was a photograph, Vanessa in prison reading a newspaper. Scrawled across the bottom in neat handwriting were 3 words. She forgave you. He stared at it for a long time, emotions warring silently in his chest. Forgiveness, he murmured, isn't something you ask for. It's something you earn. Maya stood beside him. Then earn it, he smiled faintly. Already working on it. 6 months passed. Langford Industries transformed from a wounded empire into a symbol of transparency. Carter introduced a new program, the Horizon Initiative, a cybersecurity fund named after the girl who had shown him the truth. At the launch event, reporters once again filled the hall. But this time the spotlight wasn't on Carter. It was on Maya. She stepped up to the microphone wearing a simple gray blazer and her natural confidence. When I first walked into Mr. Langford's office, I thought he'd send me away, she began. Instead, he listened. And because he did, we both learned something. Truth is fragile, but silence is deadly. She paused, scanning the crowd. If one person can see something wrong and speak up, it can change everything. Even the most powerful walls crack when the smallest voices refuse to break. Applause swelled around her. Carter watched from the front row, pride softening the lines on his face. Reeves leaned toward him. She's got your composure. Carter shook his head with a small smile. No, she has something better. Conviction. After the ceremony, as the crowd thinned, Maya approached him. You're leaving, aren't you? She said. He didn't answer at first. The look in his eyes was enough. Where will you go? She asked. Somewhere quieter, he said. Maybe I'll finally learn what peace feels like. You'll come back? He smiled. Only if you run the company better than I did. She laughed softly. That's a low bar, he chuckled. Exactly why I trust you. They stood together one last time at the top of Langford Tower, the city glittering beneath them. You know, Carter said, the first day you walked in here, you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What's that? That sometimes the truth doesn't whisper. It roars. Maya smiled, her reflection shining beside his in the glass. And you finally listened. Outside, lightning flared across the horizon, illuminating the skyline like a heartbeat. Down below, in the crowd dispersing from the event, a figure watched from a black car parked across the street, an older man with silver hair and calm, calculating eyes. Richard Calloway. He lowered the window, watching Carter and Maya through binoculars. Then, with a thin smile, he muttered, The next move's mine, before the car melted into traffic and vanished into the night. Epilogue. 6 months later. Somewhere in a quiet coastal town, Carter Langford sat on a weathered bench overlooking the ocean. No cameras, no boardrooms, just the sound of waves. He opened a small envelope mailed from New York. Inside was a photo, Maya standing beside the new Langford Foundation logo, smiling proudly. On the back she'd written, You taught me to see. Now I'm teaching others. He smiled, folding the photo carefully. For the first time in a long time, he felt unobserved, unrecorded, free. The wind picked up, carrying the faint echo of the city he'd left behind, and somewhere unseen a camera blinked once in the distance, then went dark.